Welcome to another beautiful week here. Of course, my name is Lenaria Guy. If we haven't met before, it's such a pleasure. I was just having this really big moment of gratitude as I just finished up with a client, and I just thought to myself, what an absolute gift it is to be able to help people to get out of their own way. Like we're in our own ways, don't you think? We hold ourselves back. Our minds are a minefield, and I think that it's an absolute gift to be able to help people to no longer be ruled by the parts of themselves that are our smallest, most immature self. It's our mind. Our mind gets in the way of our true freedom, our true happiness, our true liberation. That is the part that stunts us. Our mindset, our thinking, the way that we see ourselves. And the three biggest things that I ever work with anybody, and you'll find throughout all of my work, be that my books or my podcasts, joining me for my courses. I've got an in-person event coming up in Bateman's Bay, May 2, 3, and 4. And irrelevant, one-on-one, any way in which you work with me, there are three major things that we are going to do. One is to help you deal with your thoughts and help you discern what is fact and what is not. The second one is going to be help you to be able to manage your fear and to lead it, because fear gets in your way all the time. And the third one, which we're going to talk about today, is emotional regulation, because none of us really have been taught how to deal effectively with our emotions. They overwhelm us. We avoid them. We don't like them. So those three major things is what we do. We also, when you work with me, I'm going to help you talk, find out about all your beliefs, your conditioning and your programming, the patterns of your habits that lead you to down paths that you don't want to walk in. All of that is what I help people do. And I've been helping people do it 15 years. I do it for myself for the last 20 odd years. And it is powerful transformational work because it's not just about you getting a certain outcome. I was sitting with a friend this morning, and she said something about we were talking about SMART goals. We were in Bible college last night, and she had said, "Oh, I'm sure that you help people with SMART goals all the time." For those of you who don't know what a SMART goal is, it's not about being clever. It kind of is, but it's an acronym. S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is for achievable or attainable, R is for relevant or realistic, and T is for time bound. It's a coaching model that like a way to be able to set really effective goals. And my friend said to me, "Oh, you must do that a lot in your work." And it was interesting because I said, "No, actually." I don't often set goals with my clients. And it's not because I think that there's no value in goals. It's just that what I find more powerfully interesting when it comes to personal development, when it comes to becoming our most truest authentic self, is not about doing arbitrary targets somewhere in the future that you may or may not stick to. What I'm most interested in is you being able to become the person who wants to do the goal, because I'm sure that we've all had this experience. We set the goal, we set the target. We're like, yep, I'm going to do it. It's specific, it's measurable. You know what you're trying to get at. You might have an experience where you know that it's achievable or it's attainable. It has that level of relevancy to your life. It's realistic enough for you to be able to do it, and you have a time band on it. That's a beautiful process. It's absolutely great. But if you can't do it, if you won't stick to it, if you are stopping yourself because of your mindset, because of mental blocks, then good luck. Any framework is going to be futile. Any of them. If you do not have the kind of mindset that leads you to want to stick to your goals, then you won't. And that's why most people fail in things that they set out to do. It's not because the system's broken or that they're broken. It's not because they need to find another process. It's not what's happening here. It's that we are in our own ways. Our mind wants us to stay small. Our mind wants us to play small. Our mind would prefer that we stayed safe in our cozy little comfort zone than it would actually to progress in our life. And our job, ladies and gentlemen, is to be able to move beyond that. Our job, if we truly want to be fulfilled, if we truly want to move to a place of authenticity and liberation where we feel really comfortable in our own skin, the powerful piece that we need to remember is the overcoming of our mind's desire towards fear, lack, and doubt. Because our mind has a desire and a need and a propensity towards fear, lack, and doubt. And so, if your mind is the thing that's in charge of you, guess what your life is going to be like? Yes, it's going to be full of fear, lack, and doubt. So, what's powerfully important in anyone's journey, irrelevant of where you are, is that your personal development, your spiritual development, if you're a person of faith, we need to learn how to get out of our own way to master this mind because its default is fear, scarcity, lack, doubt. And so if you're not training your mind, guess what's going to happen? Fear, doubt, scarcity, lack. You're going to compare. You're going to have negative self talk. You're going to stop yourself, self sabotage. You're going to people please. All of these things you're going to do if you do not have mastery over your mind. And yes, I'm being specific here that it is mastery. It is learning how to master the part of your mind that's unconscious right now, that's in autopilot. Your thoughts are not fact. Neither are your emotions, by the way, and we're about to talk about this. It doesn't mean that they're not valid. It doesn't mean that they need ignoring. It doesn't mean that we need to just push them aside. Because how's that worked for you? Have you ever noticed? Have you ever tried to push away a negative thought? Have you ever tried to stop it from happening? You have a negative thought, you start getting into a negative thought loop. What happens? What ends up happening is that you try to push it away. You say, no, I'm not going to believe that. And it just gets worse. Trying to make your negative thoughts go away never actually makes your negative thoughts go away. Because what naturally needs to happen is a sense of acknowledgement and validation that the thought is there, that that thought is attempting to protect you, and then choosing another thought. It's not your first thought that I'm interested in, it's your second thought. Because your first thought is automatic. Your first thought is from your programming. The thing that you think first is your conditioning. Your second thought is your consciousness. Your second thought is you deliberately making a different choice as to where your focus is going to be. And when you start to learn how to focus your mind on where you actually want it to be, when you learn how to bring it into alignment, to give it direction and purpose, then instead of it being like a border collie without a job tearing up your backyard, you've now given it a job to do. And you've given it a job and it knows where to go and it's going to work for you and it's going to work for you well. Does it take practice? Absolutely. You've been practicing the untrained mind for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, right? The great news is it doesn't have to take that long. And when you learn how to do this specifically, when you learn how to unpack the thoughts that are coming one by one as they come, as they say in the Bible, take every thought captive. When you learn how to take every thought captive, it seems like a lot, but you will get practiced at it. And when you take every thought captive, my friends, what ends up happening is that you will have mastery of your mind and be no longer the slave to it. It's fear, it's doubt, it's lack, it's scarcity. And I want that for you. I want that level of human liberation. I want that level of you being able to find something deeper within inside of yourself, to be able to connect with the truth that is written on your heart that is currently being blocked by your mind. Let's move beyond that, huh? Let's move beyond. Let's move beyond the pieces of your mind that want to keep you stuck in that fear and move into a place of love. I was just having a conversation with a dear client of mine, and we've been talking about emotions. And like I said to you before, dealing with our mind, dealing like our thoughts, dealing with our fear, and dealing with our emotions are the three big ticket items that I will train you in if we ever work together. And what you'll notice throughout all of my content as well, by the way, emotions are one of those things I remember I used to block them. I didn't want to feel the emotion. I didn't want to experience the emotion. And most people believe that if they just, I'm going to say that again. If what most people believe is if they just numb out the negative emotions, then they will experience all the good ones. But hear me loud and clearly, my friends. You cannot selectively numb your feelings. What you block in the negative, you also block in the positive. So, what does that mean? All that joy you're looking for, all that excitement, all that love, ecstasy, connection, you are literally blocking it when you are pushing aside your anger, your grief, your pain, your sadness. You want to be truly happy? You want to be truly free? You want to liberate yourself from the angst of your own mind? Face your emotions. I want you to think about your emotions like coffee addicts. Think of it like coffee addicts. They need their hit, they're going to need it every single day, and you are the only coffee vendor in town. There's no other coffee vendor. They cannot get their coffee from anywhere but you, and you're the one. And so they line up outside, and you decide that your doors are shut. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to deal with all the customers of my emotions, my addict emotions here. So I'm just going to shut down. They, for a little while, might be patient. For a little while, they might be okay, right? They can deal with it for a bit. But what ends up happening? Eventually, they're going to need their hit. Eventually, they're going to need to be seen. They're eventually going to need that coffee. So, what do? They cause havoc. They break in. They start hijacking your day. And in the middle of something that is very, very inconvenient, your emotions will come to the surface. And sometimes, probably very often, you might find that the emotional reaction is actually far greater than what suits the situation. Well, why is that the case? Why would that be? Well, because you've got a long line of emotions that haven't been attended to. And look, one of the biggest reasons why people don't want to deal with their emotions is because it's intimidating. It's scary. What's going to happen if I open the lid on this? They're all going to come flooding in. Like those coffee shop customers. If you open the door, you're afraid that they're going to bombard you. And what I'm about to walk you through is a framework of mine, the 6 L's to emotional liberation. It's an actual process to help you deal with the emotion rather than just let the emotions overwhelm you. Rather than open the doors and they all flood in, everything's happening all at once and it's all too much and you don't know how to handle it. How about we learn how to actually deal with our emotions? Because our emotions are indicators. Our emotions are things that are there communicating to us that something needs our attention. It's not necessarily that something is wrong or that something is good or that something is bad. It's that something needs attention. Think of it like a keyboard. I'll show you here my keyboard here. There's lots of different letters and symbols and buttons on said keyboard. What do you think might happen if I have no idea what any of those buttons mean? And just say there's abilities for them to light up. If I don't know what the buttons are doing and what the buttons mean, if I start pressing things or if they start becoming illuminated, I'm going to be in real trouble because I don't know what it means. Like the dashboard of your car, but maybe it's a plane because it's far more complicated. You have a dashboard of a plane and there's buttons and there's beepers and there's things going off, there's sounds going, there's lights flashing, there's all sorts of different signals, indicators that are happening within the dashboard of a plane. Do you know what they mean? Look, unless you're a pilot, probably not. Here's the curious thing. Have you learned how to become the pilot of your own emotional dashboard? Most of us haven't. Most of us have never learnt how to translate the indicators that are on our emotional dashboard. And so what we end up doing is either overly expressing or under expressing. You might be an imploder. You don't yell and express out to other people, but you self destruct. Some people will explode. They will yell and scream or cry or chuck tanties externally, or you might do it internally, or a little bit of both. What ends up happening when we do that, when we move into a space when we are just having emotional outbursts or inbursts, is that the emotions still don't get an opportunity to be seen and heard that's in a way that will be helpful. Because your emotions are indicators and because they are there to communicate that something needs attention, we need to get to learn what that is. What are the emotions trying to teach us, to show us what needs our attention and what needs action and what does not need action? So, these beautiful next 6 L's of emotional liberation, you might want to grab your pen and paper. If you're watching the recording, you've got maybe a little bit of time. Press the pause. If it's live, maybe run. Go get it now. Go do the thing. If you're watching us on the podcast, well, listening to the podcast, you've got time now to go check it out. And also over 200 episodes of the podcast, by the way. If you are hanging out with me here live and you don't know that all of my lives plus all of my interview episodes actually become a podcast, then I highly recommend you go check it out. It's the More Confidence with Luna Gaia podcast. If you just Google Lunaria Gaia on Spotify, you'll be able to find me, and Apple Podcasts, all the places. Link somewhere in my something, or just message me if you're like, where's Luna's podcast? There's, 250 episodes. We've had many different seasons, from Luna on the Lounge, where I interviewed people many years back about their body image and their connection with themselves and their confidence. I interviewed recently, my last series was How'd You Get So Lucky, where I interviewed people who were quite successful in areas of their lives and brought down the myth that suggested that they got lucky. How did they actually do it? How did they get those results? There's a whole series called Self-Love Lessons with Luna, and you get to learn, really, there's 30 episodes of that, of how you can learn how to love yourself. You don't, oh man, you dive into that for the next 200 episodes, plus all the extra little tidbits that you have along there, lives like this. And boy, oh boy, will you find a wealth of knowledge and wisdom there for you to be able to tap into so that you can move away from your false self and into your true self. That's my event coming up in, I was going to say November. It's in May 2, 3, and 4 here in Bateman's Bay. And I highly recommend that you check it out. There'll be a link somewhere. Again, just message me if you're curious about that. Show notes in the podcast for sure. It's walking in authenticity. What does it mean to really be able to let go of the behaviors and programs that are holding us back, to be able to remove everything that we're not and become who we truly are meant to be? It's a powerful piece, my friends. Give yourself the chance to have the weekend with me. Let's hang out. Tickets are on sale now, so it'd be great to have you there. These L's of emotional liberation are so powerful because it teaches us how to be the observer of our emotion and let the emotion come like a wave. Comes like a wave. You'll see it coming off in the distance, and it will be barely anything. It'll build and build and build and build. The wave will get bigger, and it will be quite intense in its bigness. But every wave will break, and every wave will dissipate into shore if you let it. But we need to stop blocking the emotions, because the word emotion is emotion. It's energy in motion. So when we squash, suppress, and hold back our emotions, they don't go away. They just get squashed down further into our body, and our body keeps the score. And so then we will be unhealthy. The emotions will get stuck within our beings, and we won't have a healthy expression of them. And the opposite of expression is depression. So having a level of emotional, well, a great actual level of emotional regulation to be able to liberate yourself will make every factor of your life more powerful. And you can teach this to your kids if you have them. You can have conversations with your partners around this. It's a really great framework to be able to deal with your emotions. And if I would, deal with other people's emotions. So let's get stuck into it. Our first L here is to label it. We want to label the emotion. Now, for many of you, this step is going to be challenging enough. I have a client that I just worked with just today, and he said to me, I just feel nothing. I just feel nothing. But as we were talking, he talked about crankiness. He talked about feeling frustrated. He talked about an array of different emotions that were going on for him. And so I got curious then. Okay, cool. You said that you're feeling nothing, yet You're experiencing crankiness, you're experiencing short-temperedness, you're experiencing frustration, you're experiencing sadness, pain, loss, fear. Are they not feelings? Are they not emotions? Ah, he says, very often for him especially, and I'm sure that this can relate to many of you, that when we say we're feeling nothing, what we're actually describing is we are so overwhelmed by emotion that we're pushing the emotion away and we don't want to feel it. That's effectively what happens. So you don't feel nothing most of the time, even though nothing is can be a feeling. Explore it deeper. What's actually going on for you, and are you willing to look at it? Label. And literally what you can do is just write down the feelings that are coming up. Well, I feel nothing. Okay, cool. Let's start with that. When you think about certain areas in your life, maybe it's your health or your relationships, maybe it's your finances, what do you feel then? Nothing. Well, maybe you're feeling apathetic. Maybe you're feeling hopeless. Maybe you're feeling powerless. Maybe you're feeling avoidant. Maybe you have the emotion of fear, of scarcity, of lack, of doubt. Just start writing them out. You can do this verbally as well, but just start writing them out, label them. And then what I want you to do for step number 2, label what you're experiencing. What's the loudest one? If we come back to that coffee shop analogy, if you open your doors, all those coffee addicts are going to come in looking for you, right? And what I want you to do effectively before you start this exercise is say, hey, everybody, I know you're here, fear, doubt, scarcity, lack. I know you're here, anger, sadness, grief, passion, loneliness. I know you're all here, and I'm going to serve each and every single one of you one at a time. Then all the line of addicts, all your emotions that are lined up to get your attention, can rest assured that they're going to be served. And so then you do the emotion that is immediately in front of you, the loudest one, the one that is most prevalent. Let's go for today's example, anger. Let's go with anger. Today, anger is the first customer of the day. And so you label that anger. Label all the other ones, rock on. Today we're going to serve anger. Okay, that's our first customer. The second thing that we want to do here is locate. Where do you sense anger in your body? A lot of people feel it in their throat. I know that when I'm angry, you'll need to take a moment just to really tune in with your body here. You might say, I feel it everywhere, but you'll actually find that your emotion is located somewhere. There is a locality. It could be a region of your body. Yeah, when I'm feeling really angry, I feel it from my chest, probably up to my throat. And my throat gets quite constricted when I'm angry. Yeah, I almost get like tears welling in the back of my eyes. We want to locate it. Where is it in your body? First step, L, label. Second, locate. The third one here is to give it language. Yeah, the third one here is to language it. So this is your opportunity to let anger speak. So you might say something along the lines of, anger, I'm here to listen to you. What do you have to say? And you want to stay in observer mode here, right? If you may need to sit in a different chair when you're listening compared to when you're languaging, these are step 3 and 4 here, listening and language. You're going to language it, you're going to speak it out. So just say if I'm angry and I'll be like, well, you know what? I'm really angry that so-and-so person did this to me. And I'm feeling really, really upset that they A, B, C, and they X, Y, Z. And I'm getting angry. All the while I'm listening, which is the 4th L. So we're going to do that again. Label, locate, language, listen, right? Listen for step 4. We're going to listen intently when there's languaging. And just listen. Hi, okay, cool. I'm hearing you. Like you would getting a friend to vent it off your chest. Let it out. Let that wave of the ocean come up and it'll peak. You might feel really uncomfortable with this. It's okay. Let it peak because every wave will break and every wave will dissipate into nothingness. It's the same with your emotions. They will come in waves, they will increase in size. But if you try to stop it, if you try to stop the wave, the energy will just be suppressed. So, what we want to do when your emotions are coming up into their peak, when the emotions are peaking and it's high, we want to be able to sit there and just listen. Let your emotions, anger in this example, let it out, let it be free in that. Doesn't mean that you hurt other people, doesn't mean that you have behavior that is unkind or inappropriate. It means you listening to your anger. So I'm going to say it again. We're going to label, we're going to locate, we're going to language and listen. There are first four L's that we're going to do. Label, locate, language, listen. And with those four, what you're doing right now is creating a safe space for your emotions to be able to be heard. It allows an opportunity for them to rise and peak and be served like those coffee shop customers. You're allowing them to be served. And once your anger has had its full expression, you can say things to it like, tell me more. What else is going on for you? Get it all out. That's your listening part. And the language part is, well, I just rah, 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 rah. Like the feeling out, right? And then what you're going to do for our fifth L here is love. And that isn't as fluffy as you might think it is. We're literally going to acknowledge and validate the emotion. And it goes something a little something like this. I really hear what you're feeling. I'm really noticing, and I would reflect back. I'm really noticing that there's a lot of energy around ABC doing XYZ to you. I want you to know that this expression that you're having here is important, it's valuable, it's valid. Thank you for sharing. That's acknowledgement and validation. That's loving. We label, we locate it within our body, we language it, we listen intently, we love by acknowledging and validating it. And then lastly, in step 6, we lead. And in this lead part, once the emotion has had its wave, that it's come out and it's come through you and you've listened and it's said all the things that it needs to say. You've languaged it, you've loved it. I acknowledge and validate that you're here. Thank you for sharing. Acknowledge here that you are not attempting to fix the emotion. You're not trying to change the emotion. You are not trying to make the emotion go away, because you cannot reject yourself into acceptance. That's an important piece. This last one here is lead. And good leadership, great leadership, if I would, is being able to understand the needs of the one that you're leading. So because you've listened intently, now what you're going to do with your leadership is ask some questions and say, hey, I really heard you, anger, when you said XYZ about ABC. Tell me, what do you think that I need to do right now? Do you think there's action that I need taking? Do you need something from me? And if so, what would that be? And again, you're going to listen. You're going to pay good attention to what your anger has to say to you. And you'll find that there aren't many emotions that require action other than just being heard and listened to. Anger often does require some level of action. It's often a boundary violation that has happened, either one that you've allowed or one that you've allowed somebody else to cross. But it's up to you to learn what is happening on your emotional dashboard. And you're only going to learn how to decipher what is happening on your emotional dashboard by locating it, by labeling it, locating it, languaging it, listening to it, loving it, and finally exploring more by leading it. And so what you're doing here in this leadership part is gathering information. You've gathered information, you have found out what your emotions are trying to teach you. You've gotten information from that, and then it's up to you as the leader to decide what course of action to take, not the emotions. We're not to make decisions based on the emotion. The emotion's not the one making the decision. You are gathering data, you are gathering information from your emotions to be able to make an informed decision. You might go, cool, thank you, anger. I know that you really want me to yell and scream about this person. You as the leader can sit there and go, probably not going to be the best way forward. But maybe you do make a promise to your anger and say, you know what? Once this energy has dissipated from us, tomorrow I'm going to sleep on this tonight, and tomorrow I'm going to set some boundaries in place. And if I don't know how to do that, I'm going to go learn. I'm going to go get a coach, and I'm going to go find out excuse me, how do I do this better? The leader doesn't just have every single staff member say, everything is wrong and this is what's happening, and then they go into complete meltdown. No, the leader gathers the information, learns what direction to take, and maybe sometimes makes mistakes. And that's totally okay too. So, our six L's to recap of emotional liberation to figure out what your emotional dashboard is teaching you. We want to label the emotion to begin with. We want to locate it within our body. We want to give it language, allow it to speak. We want to listen really intently to what it has to say so that we're paying attention to it, right? Then we want to love it. Step five, by acknowledging and validating it. I hear you, I see you, thank you for sharing. And finally, step six is that we want to lead our emotions. We want to find out what it needs from us, what it's trying to communicate with us, what attention needs, and what its suggestion is to to what it thinks needs to happen from here. It doesn't mean that you're going to take that as fact and let your emotions lead. You are going to lead it. And you're going to have a conversation and say, okay, great, cool. I'm hearing everything you say. I'm going to take all that data into consideration. And as the leader here of this ship, I'm going to decide what to do moving forward. Thank you for your information, emotion. I say it again, your emotions are indicators and they're communicating to you that something needs your attention. That's what's happening here. So it's wise to listen to them. It's wise to be able to connect in with them. It's wise to be able to hear what they have to say. I'm just going to check in with our chat to see if anything is here. If anybody's asking me any questions, you are welcome to. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm here for them. Checking it out. Don't think anything has come through just yet. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Hello, Belinda. Nice to have you here. I'm just about finish up. So if you have any questions, do please let me know if you have any questions around these six L's to emotional liberation. This is about learning your emotional dashboard. I'm going to say it one more time for the crowds at home. You want to label the emotion. You want to locate it in your body. You then want to language the emotion, give it a voice. You want to listen to what is happening there. You love by acknowledging and validating the emotional experience. You're leading by finding out what data it has to tell you, and then you get to make a informed decision as to what you need to do moving forward. I'm curious to know how this lands with everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for hanging out with me here live for all of those that you have today. If you have any questions, leave them in the chat box. Email me if you are hanging out on the podcast or any of the recordings. Get happy at lanariaguy.com. Of course, if you want to come to my event I was going to say Melbourne, in Batemans Bay, May 2, 3, and 4, please do. It's going to be an amazing weekend. Tickets are available now, and payment plans are, of course, there. And if you are thinking about maybe doing some one-on-one work with me, message me. I don't take everybody. I only take about 10 clients at a time. So if you are curious about what one-on-one work might look for you, let me know. Send me a message. You can find me on all the socials and we'll hang out. Big love to you all. Have yourself a beautiful day and enjoy hanging out with your emotions. It's a pleasure to be here. See ya.
Refresh this page and try again. The problem says please contact support. I'm still here. I didn't realize that I was still here. I'm obviously having some issues happening on the end here, and it's not letting me stop my recording. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Let's see if this works. Just don't know if I lost it.